Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the new and proud satellite offices of California here in Sacramento. We just finished the move, man. I swear to God, like, I hate fucking moving, dude. It's the literal worst. Like, one, it costs you a shitload of money to hire movers. And then two, it's just like you got to pack all your shit in boxes and you got to unpack all your shit in boxes. Like, my girlfriend and I spent all last night, all this morning unpacking to get this shit set up so I can make sure that I record and don't disappoint and deliver the Market Watch Mondays episode for y'all. But it's been a pain in the ass. But I'm happy to say we're here. I'm loving the new place. This is my new office, my home setup. I'll give you guys a little tour here. So we got a big ass walk-in closet over there. This is like basically the office here, and then it's nice because right out here we got park views. So, you know, right across from us we got park, so it's nice. A lot of daylight, a lot of natural light, which is what my girlfriend really wanted. Our old place it had windows, but like it was all tinted, so it was all shady and shit. Didn't look natural, but you know, we woke up this morning, natural sunlight lighting up the room. It's good for our plants, good for my face, good for my energy. Y'all know I need that help on the face especially. So I'm happy to be here, man. I'm happy to be recording. As always, in case you didn't know me, my name is Mike. You can find me on Twitter at MikeMail with 2 P's, just like it says there on the bottom of your screen. We're BDG fam out here, Wolfpack Nation. If you guys have not been joining the Wolfpack so far, make sure y'all check that out on the Patreon, patreon.com/ourpack. There's tons of really, really cool stuff already happening within the Wolfpack Discord, but there'll be even more coming down the line. You know, we're going to start working on tools and all that stuff that are going to build off my rankings. So hopefully, if you guys haven't already, get in there. And if you are in there, thank you for the support, man. I'll see you guys chat it up in there because I'm always in there as well. So it's good to get that feeling right. And it's good to get a new spot, man, a new change of scenery for me. I mean, I've been in San Francisco for the last like 4 or 5 years now. So this is my first time living in the U.S., not in San Francisco. Because as you guys know, I'm from Canada. I used to live in Toronto, moved out to San Francisco for work. And now I'm out here in Sacramento because my work is remote, so I kind of go wherever we need to. And you know, my girlfriend has her job here, so I'm out here as well now. And it's nice, man. The neighborhood's nice. We got a lot of good food around here. Been good vibes. Nothing but positive stuff to say about my move so far. But you didn't come here to hear about my life story. You guys came here to learn about strategy, dominate dynasty. We are in peak startup season. All right, peak startup season right now. Startups flying up everywhere. People are asking me to join startups. It's taking a lot of willpower to shut them down because I told myself I wouldn't join too many startups this year. Obviously, I'm saving one startup for the Wolfpack only Patreon startup that's going to be coming up in July, which I will be the commissioner of. So if you're a alpha only league, you have to be the alpha tier, and then I'm going to select a draw, and it's probably going to be a 24-man league with 2 copies. So if you guys are interested in that, if you're already an alpha member, don't worry about it. I'm gonna announce all the details and stuff once I get settled in here in the new place, in the new crib. I'm going to announce that in the channel and all the details and how to enter and how I'm going to select winners, all that stuff. But if you aren't an alpha tier member, man, hop on over the Patreon. Like I said, get on that. That's going to be a league of sharks. I'm very concerned about that league, to be honest. I'm kind of shook, and I'm rarely shook when it comes to dynasty leagues. I'm pretty confident no matter what league I join, who's in them. But the reason why I'm shook is because y'all have my rankings. Y'all know how I think. You're going to be reading my fucking mind and sniping me left and right, and I'm not going to know anything about you guys other than the fact that, you know, you guys support me. So it's going to be an interesting league. I bet you that's going to be the hardest league that I've played in, because I'll tell you this, man. Like, people get a misconstrued, you know, perception of who's good at fantasy, right? On Twitter, there's like guys that are good talent evaluators, right? There's guys that are good at strategy. There's very rarely guys that are good at both. And I'll tell you one thing, man. Follower count doesn't mean shit about how good you are, because the worst players I've ever played against have like 10,000 plus followers on Twitter. And the best players I've ever played against, they don't even have a Twitter. So dominant dynasty players come in all shapes and sizes, all follower accounts. So, you know, just because you're in an analyst expert league doesn't mean shit. I promise you this, man. Some of the easiest leagues I ever played in are analyst expert leagues because they just don't know what the fuck they're doing. All right, they know how to tweet. They might know how to, like, you know, analyze players, but for the most part, man, a lot of the analysts play, like, I mean, they're okay. They're okay. They're not the best players I ever played against. All right, I'll just put it that way. But anyways, enough to do about that. Before we hop into the main content, though, y'all know what time it is. For the first time ever, we got to hit that intro in Sacramento. All right, today's topics, I want to get a little bit into startup strategy, and I want to cover two things real quick, right? First things first is in one of my prior episodes, I talked about how this year would be a really good year to go in as a first-year contender, right? And the reason why I say that is because quarterback reaching is at an all-time high. People are climbing up on their fucking metaphorical step ladders to reach all the way up to above the top of the shelf to grab some of these quarterbacks. And by way of doing that, they are passing on stud running backs, which means this is the first year that I've seen since playing Dynasty. You can land two top tier, like top 5 bell cow running backs, like league-winning running backs. If they stay healthy, you can land 2 of them, and you don't even have to trade up, and you don't even have to pick from the top of the draft. Because in the startups I've done, I've been in 4 now, and I've seen a bunch of others as well. And what I'm seeing is quarterbacks are ripping. Like, they are just ripping, like 8, 9, 10 quarterbacks in the first round, just ripping off the board. And, I've seen CMC fall to 1.11. I've seen CMC fall to as early as 1.08. That's the earliest I saw CMC go in the 4 drafts I've been in. And some of them are 14-team Superflex drafts. Some of them are campus to Canton, which is a little bit different because it's a lot harder to get quarterbacks in that type of format, right? So it does push the value of quarterbacks a lot, but not to the point where I'm going to fucking take a rookie quarterback over CMC, right? I'm not going to do it. But that's just me. It doesn't mean that it's wrong to do it, but I'm just saying because of the way that people are approaching the game, which isn't necessarily wrong per se, but I think it opens up the door for someone that wants to be a contender year one to do it without sacrificing their future. To build a team and land like 2 of CMC, Barkley, Kamara, JT, you would have to trade your first-round picks away, guaranteed. You would have to trade your future first-round picks away, probably lose depth in the startup to move from like the second round or third round into the first round to grab like a CMC Barkley or like a CMC Kamara or like a Barkley Kamara, JT Kamara. It's like some combo of my top 5 running backs. Grab those back-to-back in the startup. But now you don't have to do that. You can start from the back. You can pick from the back part of the draft. You can even trade back. If you go into a draft, and here's what I can recommend you doing, like maybe grab like if you do like a Kentucky Derby where they let you choose what draft slot you want, right? Maybe still go for the 101 or go for like the 105 or something. Maybe go for like the 105, 106. When people start seeing elite quarterbacks fly off the board, they're going to want to trade up a little bit more versus just trade up before quarterbacks start flying, right? Capitalize on that quarterback run, trade back, add some capital, and then draft like a CMC, Saquon Barkley as your first round pick. And then, you can backfill with some of the other quarterbacks later on. Guys like Tannehill in the 3rd round, still undervalued. I've seen him jump a little bit up more now. He's maybe in the 2nd round, but you still have guys like Kirk Cousins, extreme value, right? You got Matt Ryan, who I don't love, but I don't mind at the price that he's going for. You can grab Jalen Hurts later for a high risk, high upside reward, right? You can do a lot of these stuff, and the only reason why you can do it is because quarterbacks are flying off the board. And the second part of doing that, the reason why you're able to do it is because there's so much value at wide receiver. We say it every year, right? I mean, I say it every year ever since like 2 or 3 years ago, but there's so much depth at wide receiver. And what that means, specifically in Dynasty, is that there's a lot of depth, but there's a lot of veteran depth that are going in the later rounds. You got Allen Robinson going in the 5th round. You got Michael Thomas going in the 4th, 5th round. Michael Thomas was a consensus wide receiver 1 last year. He got injured, and people are like, all right, well, fuck you, Slant Boy. You can't play anymore. That's idiotic, right? Michael Thomas is one of the most prolific producers in the NFL, age-adjusted producers in the NFL. So usually elite players like that don't just die within 1 season, right? He had a high ankle sprain. Those are tough to come back from in season. He still forced himself to play because he knew Noodle-Arm Breeze was like on his last legs. So he had to come back, but now he's had the whole offseason to heal, right? I believe he had surgery. But anyways, he had the whole offseason to heal. And look, I don't care if this guy runs fucking slants 90% of the time. He's scoring a bunch of points. So I don't care what routes you win. As long as you're elite at doing it and winning all the time and you're getting me points, that's all I care about. So people can take all that slant boy shit and throw it in the fucking garbage. I don't give a shit. All right. So you got Michael Thomas in the 5th round. You got Mike Evans. I'm getting Mike Evans in the 7th, 6th round. This is a guy who very clearly to me has wide receiver 1 upside. And honestly, he has wide receiver top 5 upside. Last year, if you think back to what happened, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin were battling with like hamstring injuries, hand injuries. First year with Tom Brady, they still won the fucking Super Bowl because their defense was elite. I understand you got Antonio Brown coming back now. People are really worried about that. But this is going to be a very high-scoring offense, right? And Mike Evans every year is the guy that has double-digit touchdown upside. And to be a top 5 wide receiver upside, I think that's really what you need on top of target volume. So he's not going to get like 180 targets, right? Because you got Chris Godwin there, you got Antonio Brown there, but he can see like 130, 140 and still return top 5 upside. So again, just another really, really good veteran target that you can get in those middling rounds that can help bolster your win now roster. So you could conceivably still trade back. And I think this is the question I wanted to get to is a lot of people in the Patreon said, hey, Mike, you said this is a good year to go as a win now team. Does that mean I should be sacrificing my future and trading with my first round picks to get up? No, not necessarily. And the reason why I said it's good this year is because you don't have to do that. You can, I think what I advise people to do is don't trade out of your first and second round pick if you want to take the strategy, right? Draft a CMC, draft a Saquon Barkley, guys who I think should be going in the top 3. They should be going in the top 5 picks at the latest, right? Guys who are top 5 picks, get them in the late first, early second. It's as if when you draft someone that late, to me, it's as if you traded up from that position for free. Like you traded up from the 1.09 to the 1.02, 1.03 to draft CMC for free, right? And that is a big move. Normally, that's going to cost you like close to a first round pick if you want to do that, right? But you don't have to do that this year. So, and you don't have to actually sacrifice all your future picks. I think you can still trade back and accumulate more future picks by trading out of like the 3rd round, the 4th round even, and moving back into like the 5th, 6th rounds and accumulating multiple picks there while adding future rookie picks. That'll still allow you to have a contending roster. Yes, you will miss out on the elite quarterback, but you'll have future draft capital from other guys who may be high picks that help you replenish there. But trading out of those rounds, you can still get quarterbacks. You can still get guys like Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, like I already said, even later on, like Ben Roethlisberger, Jimmy Garoppolo, Cam Newton. These are all value guys you can get and string together like a ragtag quarterback group that can still help you contend, assuming you filled out all of your other skill positions, right? Because the middle rounds of those middle rounds of wide receivers is so juicy. And if you open with 2 stud running backs, you really don't need to go running back again for a long time. So that opens up the door for quarterbacks, tight ends, if you want to go there, or wide receivers, value wide receivers, like the guys that I mentioned. And you can, because if you trade back out of the 3rd round or even out of the 2nd round, let's say you just open with CMC. You don't go back to back. Just open CMC, trade out of the 2nd round, trade out of the 3rd round, and get a bunch of picks in the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 range. You're going to be able to get a balance of wide receivers, not just old veterans. Like guys who I really, really like going in like the 4th, 5th, 6th round right now. You got Brandon Ayuk, right? You got Chase Claypool, who I'm consistently seeing fall to the 5th, 6th round because people are unable to let go of their priors. You guys remember, I was vehemently against Chase Claypool. I thought his profile had bust written all over it, but he went into the NFL and he produced a wide receiver 24 season. That's not a points per game basis, but that's still pretty impressive for a rookie, right? He was one of the only guys to do that. It was him and Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson obviously exploded and was a wide receiver 1, but Chase Claypool was wide receiver like 22 or 23, if I remember quickly, or maybe 24, whatever. It doesn't matter. He was in that range, and I think people are still sleeping on him because people disliked him coming in the draft. And now that he's went out there and performed, people are going to find reasons to dislike him, continually dislike him, right? Like, what are the things you hear? Like, oh, man, like if you took away that 40-point game, like he would have sucked. Or, oh, man, if you only look at the second half of the season, he would have sucked. Like, oh, man, like, dude, if you take out the good games of any players, you're left with the bad games, right? And I understand you want to put some context around it, but wide receivers are inherently boom bust. And rookie wide receivers especially is really, really tough to produce, especially if you look at a Chase Claypool. He came in and basically relegated Juju Smith-Schuster to the third role, right? And he's competing with Deontay Johnson, right? And Ben Roethlisberger is coming in with, I mean, he's not the same Big Ben that he was before. But if you look at the way they're using Chase Claypool, he's not just a deep threat, right? They're using him a lot in the slants, and I highly, highly recommend you guys go check out Reception Perception. I love Reception Perception by Matt Harmon, mainly because it puts numbers and like concrete evidence around route running, right? Like all the time I go on fucking Twitter, and every fucking pro scout, film scout, Twitter guy is talking about route running of some obscure dude who nobody fucking cares about. Last year was Van Jefferson. This year it's someone else. Every year there's a guy that's like, oh man, this guy's got elite route running, but nobody can explain what the fuck that means. So which is why I love Matt Hartman, because he goes out, he charts the shit, he puts them in nice little graphics. We have the Sicko tier. I highly recommend you get it too, because you can basically go on and you'll get the historical charting data. And the reason why I like it is you can use it. Anyways, if you look at Chase Claypool, he's not a one-trick pony, right? He is actually winning in a lot of different scenarios. He's winning in routes. He's obviously winning deep because that's his strength. The only weakness that Chase Claypool had is his contested catch ability, which is ironic because everyone that loved Chase Claypool told me this guy was a monster in the red zone. Is going to be a contested catch beast. So if he can improve in that aspect of the game, he is going to be dominant. And he is a alpha build wide receiver. They don't make him like Chase Claypool very often, right? He's huge, he's fast, he's big, and he can run routes. And that was very surprising to me, very eye-opening. I'm not getting sponsored by Matt Harmon or anything. I don't have any discount codes for you. I'm just telling you to go buy that shit because it's a good product, in my opinion. And, we just promote shit that's good. You don't have to pay us to promote stuff. If I think it's good, I'm just going to talk about it. And I think it's really good. Anyways, you can get Chase Claypool in those middle rounds. You can get a balance. I've been landing a lot of Chase Claypool with Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, and then another guy, Brandon Ayuk. Like I said, people are unwilling to look at their priors. I think, Brandon Ayuk and Chase Claypool, they both have a lot of risk, right? Because they're competing with a lot of good players, but they themselves are really good players, and these are bets on talent. Do I expect them both to be wide receiver ones this year? No, but I'm expecting to be patient, and I'm betting on that talent to play out in the long run. As Trey Lance develops, as Claypool develops, right? You're going to see these guys rise up with them. And those are two of my anchoring wide receivers. And it's why I love trading back into that zone, because I can get someone like a Brandon Ayuk, and then the reason that what helps me de-risk it when I trade out of like the second or third and land in the fifth and sixth and get like a Brandon Ayuk or a Chase Claypool, trading down from like a Calvin Ridley or someone who's like an already established stud, the de-risking part is me adding that future first rookie pick, me adding that another startup pick, right? So that if one of them busts, I still have someone else. So even though, in singularity and absolute metrics, like Ayuk and Claypool is probably more risky than a Calvin Ridley, the package that I got from trading back to land maybe a Brandon Ayuk plus an Allen Robinson, now I've completely de-risked that profile, right? Like, what's the drop-off from Allen Robinson to Calvin Ridley? Not that much, right? And then I got a high upside guy like Brandon Ayuk on top. Another reception perception favorite. So another, confidence booster for all you guys who are Brandon Ayuk lovers. His charts are all green. Like, he was dominating in every aspect of the field. Contested catch, run after the catch, vertical, short stuff. I mean, another huge whiff by me. But like I said, man, everyone misses. But for me, it's about how quickly you can adjust, how quickly you can react, and not suffer from take lock. A lot of people do suffer from take lock as represented by their startup ADP. So take advantage and jump on these guys, all right? So you can employ this type of strategy and land a team something like, Saquon Barkley plus like, Alvin Kamara, maybe plus like Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan as your quarterbacks. And then you have like Brandon Ayuk, Allen Robinson, Mike Evans, and like Michael Thomas, right? And then maybe a couple of dart throw tight ends. And that is a very, very strong core contending team that not only helps you contend this year, but lasts into the future, because the running backs you're getting aren't really they're not like 28 years old, right? You're getting Saquon Barkley, he's not even 25. Even Alvin Kamara, 25, 26, but he's like more of a receiving back, so it's a little bit different. You can probably get like Austin Eckler for even cheaper in those middle rounds at like 25, 26 years old. So your age curve for your team is not really going to hit a cliff yet, because you have a balance at wide receiver, right? You have a decent quarterbacks. Like Kirk Cousins, 33, right? He's 33 or 32. Anyways, he's a low 30s. He's going to play for another 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And Kirk Cousins is perennially underrated as both a fantasy quarterback and a real-life quarterback. Is he elite? No, but he gets the job done. And he's going to be able to contribute to your team. Like, I won a ton of championships just purely off Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill as my value quarterbacks going back to last year. So these are the things that you can do as a contending team. So when people ask me, like I said, do you need to sell? Do you still trade away your future rookie picks? No, I hate trading away my rookie future picks in the startup draft, because that is the lowest value they will ever be. And I hate selling low on rookie picks because they're so secure. And the thing is, you don't need to, right? Even if you're a contending team, you're trying to be a contending team, the biggest mistake I see people make is just still reaching for need or like drafting for need. It's fucking June, July. You have 2-3 months to trade out. Like I'm in a draft right now where I am definitely a contending team. I opened with CMC and Saquon Barkley. This is a C2C league with like Ray GQ and all those other sharks, including Shaq, who is the commissioner there. Great group of guys, great league. But I saw Matt Ryan, I saw Daniel Jones fall to like the 8th, 9th rounds, and I don't love these guys, but at that time it's value. And like, could I have gotten a wide receiver? Could I have gotten a flex player? Yeah, but I didn't want to because I'm drafting for value still, even though I'm a contending team, because I know I can flip those guys for other positions of need later, because quarterback's on a bust, quarterback's going to get injured. And because I have like 4 or 5 quarterback depth on my team, I'll be able to trade those. So when I look at my team, I don't see like when I'm drafting Drew, I'm like, oh, I'm drafting to fill this slot. I'm saying like I'm drafting this guy because I think his value is going to increase, and I can turn that guy into any freaking position I need, right? And that's like the philosophy of people to get around. And I know like everyone suffers from this. Me, I do too. When I'm on the clock, I'm like, damn, like I'm sweating this. Should I fill that next flex? Because it's a really, really deep league. I have to start 4 wide receivers, 3 running backs, like 3 flex, like a ton of players, right? So should I be filling that need? And like, no, because I'm confident in my ability to trade, right? That's the thing. I'm confident in my ability to trade. I send out hundreds and hundreds of trades like per month, right, in the offseason. I know I'm fucking grinding, right? So I'm going to outgrind other people, and I'm going to get those trades done. So that's the mentality that you have to go in with. So you don't even if you're drafting to win the team now, you still don't need to draft for need, because you can always trade better players as long as they're high value positions. Now, if you're drafting like, flex wide receivers, don't expect to trade those for anything because nobody fucking wants them. There's no demand. But if you're drafting like quarterbacks or running backs, you can always flip those for wide receivers and flex positions, right? That's the way I think about it when I'm approaching the startup draft, even as a contender. When drafting this early, do not draft for need. Just draft those core assets, right? Think about where you're at, and then you can always trade for need later. As long as you have like excess running backs or excess quarterbacks or even excess tight ends positions that other people will for surely need, then you're going to be good. All right, so don't sweat it. So that's the piece I want to talk about on the contending side, right? And then the other piece I want to talk about is the productive struggle side. I know you guys always hear me preach productive struggle. You would think that all my teams are productive struggle. That's not the case, right? You don't want to freaking tank every single team. I have a balance of like win now teams, productive struggle teams, shitty orphans I've taken over because I like that fun, that are in for the rebuild. And then like, those are kind of like the buckets that I have, and I have a balance of them. But for the productive struggle, sometimes I see people take it like way overboard, right? And they just think in their minds like, I can only draft youth, and I have to collect as many rookie picks as possible, and I have to trade back no matter what, like no matter the value. Like, you don't have to do anything, right? Like I don't really go into a draft to myself and think I'm 100% doing productive struggle or I'm 100% doing contention. I go into a draft like fucking Bruce Lee the GOAT. I just go into a draft and say, I'm going to be water. I'm going to draft however I see fit. I'm going to read the room. I'm going to see if like 11 other people are trying to trade back, then like, okay, cool. Then that means I'm probably not going to be able to trade out of the first couple of rounds. I don't want to outbid 11 other people to offer the cheapest trade back, right? You think about everything in terms of supply and demand. You don't want to be the guy that's offering the lowest price every single time. If you are the guy that's consistently offering the lowest price, you are destroying value on your team. And that's why I see people do. They're like, people come on the Patreon all the time. They're like, hey, like I can't get a good offer for the 1.01. Should I just take like, a 5th and a 7th? Like, no. You don't take a 5th and 7th. You fucking draft Patrick Mahomes and you wait till in the season and someone comes with a mother load offer, the Godfather offer, you can't refuse. You just can't refuse it, all right? So that's like 4 first package or whatever it is. That's what you wait for. If you can't trade back, you draft the best player that's on the board because they're going to that you think is going to increase in value or retain value that you'll be able to trade for at a later date. There's no need to take low ball offers just to trade back, and that's something that I see people do or ask about really often. I don't want you to make that mistake. If you're in a league with a bunch of other sharps and 11 people are trying to trade back, then guess what? One, you can either get creative by using some of the trade offers I talk about, or if you can't get those to work, just draft a good player. And that's why I said, like, if you go into draft this year, you're sitting there at 1.08, and the best offer you got is like a 3rd and a 6th for the 1.08, and Christian McCaffrey's on the board. Guess what? Draft Christian McCaffrey, right? Pivot. And you draft Christian McCaffrey doesn't necessarily mean you have to absolutely go all in either. It probably shifts you towards that way, but Christian McCaffrey is not necessarily like a Dalvin Cook. Like when you see a Dalvin Cook, it's a little bit less flexible, I think, because Christian McCaffrey to me is going to last like a long time. And just because of the way that he plays, the 100 receptions, like this is a generational fantasy asset. So I think he's going to retain value a little bit better. But you could also just draft like Jonathan Taylor if you want to keep that flexibility, right? I have Christian McCaffrey ahead of Jonathan Taylor, but if you want to draft Jonathan Taylor first, I'm not going to hate you for it, right? He's a freaking stud. He blew up as a rookie, and he's young. And drafting Jonathan Taylor still keeps you flexible. Guys like DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers, these young running backs, you can draft them and still remain flexible. All right. So don't just like fade running backs entirely and just not draft them, even if you can't trade back, and reach on like a young wide receiver just because you're trying to go for productive struggle. That is not how you do it, because you got to think about it in season, right? Like in season, like let's say you go and draft Justin Jefferson, who's probably most people's wide receivers ones by this point, over Christian McCaffrey, right? In season, can you trade Justin Jefferson for Christian McCaffrey? No. I highly doubt it. But can you trade Christian McCaffrey for a wide receiver that's similar to Justin Jefferson plus a piece in season to a contender? Abso-fucking-lutely, man. Absolutely. So that's the way you have to think about it. You can't just draft thinking that these players are going to stay on your team forever, even in a productive struggle. You're trying to draft and accumulate as much value as possible. That's the key. In a productive struggle, you're trying to draft and accumulate as much value as possible. So if you're drafting for youth only, and you're bypassing value for it, you're destroying value on your team, right? So I like to stay flexible in the first 3 rounds of productive struggle, but once you get into like the 5th, 6th, 7th round, you got to start considering like value moves here. Like when Michael Thomas falls to the 5th, are you going to be able to get like a first round pick plus a younger wide receiver in season when Michael Thomas is catching 120 balls? Yeah, absolutely you will to a contender. So that's the way you have to think. So I did a productive struggle team, for example, and Michael Thomas was sitting there for me at the end of the 5th, top of the 6th. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to draft Michael Thomas. He's a fucking stud. And if I trade later, or if I can pivot in season and become a contender myself, if a couple of injuries break my way, like these are things that I'm thinking about when I make a draft pick like that. So don't just completely bypass all veterans forever. I told you like to stay flexible in the top 3 rounds because it opens your options in terms of whether you're a contender or not. This year, I think I'm even more open to drafting like running backs because of how much value there are there, which makes you a little bit less flexible, but makes you a much, much, much more dangerous contender. So I say all that to say this: do not fade all veterans just because you're in a productive struggle, right? Because veterans can still gain value. You don't want a team of just full rookies and draft picks, because a lot of those draft picks are going to bust, and unless you trade them away, obviously, which is also what I preach. But, a lot of the young guys, they might not accrue value as fast as some of these more established guys. Like someone like a Chris Godwin is falling in the 4th, 5th round. Chris Godwin was already the wide receiver 1 on a points per game basis in 1 year, right? So what I don't understand is like, we're fading Chris Godwin, but he's already put up. We already know what he's capable of. He's an elite producer, and I get Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, crowded, blah, 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 whatever. He's got this 1 year. You don't know where he's going to go next. But Chris Godwin, we know is talented, right? We know that based on his production, based on his collegiate production, based on the perception profile, based on the film, based on what he's done so far in his NFL career. Guys that have done what he's done go on to produce more wide receiver 1 seasons. So he's another guy where it's like you can draft him in the 4th, 5th round. I've been drafting them in a lot of places, and keep your draft wide open, right? So these are the types of guys where like, I don't want to see you fading a Chris Godwin for like a young rookie wide receiver just because you want to like stay even younger. Like Chris Godwin's only like 25, 26 years old. He's got enough time for you to pivot your team and do whatever you want with it, all right? Do not just fade veterans like Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, like all these guys, these like pre-Twitter darlings that have like fallen out of favor. Like go in on them, because if history has shown anything, good players that have produced in the past will produce in the future. That is the greatest indicator of future production. So don't be afraid of drafting veterans in a startup just because you're going productive struggle, because at the end of the day, you're making a bet. And your bet is this: will the player I draft now increase in value between now and the end of the season, right? Because at any point in that middle ground, you can trade him to contender, you can trade him for other picks, you can trade him for other assets. You don't have to pass on them in the startup, and that is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make. Is they fade everything. They fade everyone that's any resemblance of age in the startup draft if they're doing productive struggle. You don't have to do that. You don't have to draft. You don't have to reach for youth. Reaching for youth is a value destructive thing, especially in the middle rounds, and especially this year when you're seeing so much value fall to those middle rounds for top end producers and elite guys. All right, and that kind of goes to the positional side as well, right? Because typically when you think of a productive struggle, people think like, oh man, I need to get quarterbacks in order to do a productive struggle. And that's how, I used to think as well. But in a year where quarterbacks are grossly overvalued, especially the young guys, I'm seeing Trey Lance and like Justin Fields going like the 1st round. I love Trey Lance. I love Justin Fields, right? I've been saying I love these two guys since all offseason, especially Trey Lance. And I said, even in the Patreon, if you were in the Patreon, I said, mark my words, like, this was like pretty much like right after the draft or like just before the draft. I said, look, Trey Lance is going to be a first round startup pick within 2 months. And he's kind of already there. He's broaching on that like tail end of the first, top of the second. But in all the drafts I've been in, he's gone in the first round, top 10 picks, right? And look, I get it. I love Trey Lance. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's gonna be a great asset. I think he's got running capabilities, got Konami code. But at that price, there's really no more upside for a Justin Fields and a Trey Lance, who have yet to play an NFL snap at one of the hardest positions to transition from college to NFL, right? There's really no upside left. So in a world like that, it's hard to build around a young quarterback, right? It's really hard. This is a year where you can like probably just wait on quarterback and just if you get enough future picks, let's say you get like 3 or 4 future picks, chances are you can probably get a future rookie quarterback and you can get a couple veteran guys at value who are super, super deeply discounted to kind of complement. And then mention, like I said, you can combo them with someone like a Kirk Cousins who actually has a very, very long leeway still. The only rookie quarterback that I've seen that I've been getting a lot of at value is Zach Wilson. And if you guys remember, Zach Wilson, I wasn't the biggest Zach Wilson fan in the offseason or coming out of college. I thought Justin Fields was leaps ahead of him. But the NFL spoke, and they made him the second quarterback off the board, and yet he's going like 2-3 rounds later than Justin Fields and Trey Lance. Now, I get that he doesn't have the same Konami code, but he has the draft capital, right? And I really like what the Jets are doing. They are building from the core out, a philosophy that most teams need to fucking take note of. They swung on a high-risk quarterback, right? But who they believe was their guy, and surrounded him with offensive line, surrounded him with weapons. They drafted Elijah Moore, brought in Corey Davis, right? And they're adding weapons on that front for him, and they're building a team around him so that he can succeed, right? And that's the key. They're protecting him, and they're giving him weapons, right? That's what you need to give young quarterbacks to see if they have it. And the Dolphins are doing that now too. I know some people don't like Jalen Waddle pick, whatever. If they believe that's the guy that helped Tua, then whatever. I want to see it, right? Zach Wilson, I like him because the team is building around him the right way. So I don't view it as like the same trash organization that a second round pick normally goes to, right? And I think can get him at a value. So he's someone where if you're in a productive struggle, I think you should be definitely targeting someone like a Zach Wilson in the 3rd or 4th round of the startups, right? And that'll kind of give you the anchor young quarterback, and you can complement it with like Kirk Cousins, and then get a couple older guys that you can look to flip in for value in season. Someone like a Jimmy Garoppolo, someone like a Cam Newton. If you think Cam Newton's washed, cool, whatever. I think you should go for Jimmy Garoppolo. The peripherals in terms of EPA and his QBR, Jimmy Garoppolo's been like an average to above average quarterback. So I'm more confident in Jimmy Garoppolo being a starter within the next 2 to 3 years than I am in a Sam Darnold, for example, or even like a Daniel Jones, because I've seen Jimmy Garoppolo do good things. Now, people hate on him because he's not like a stud. He's not a Konami quarterback. And, they hate on him because of that throw he missed in the Super Bowl. And people get emotionally attached to these singular events. Whereas, like, if you make, like, a freaking, worst throws highlight reel of all the quarterbacks in, like, the middle range, like, it's going to look a lot worse than Jimmy Garoppolo. I can promise you that. So, Jimmy Garoppolo is someone I think is, like, a really good value and someone you should grab, even as a productive struggler. He's only 30 years old. I could see him taking a career arc very similar to, like, a Kirk Cousins, right? Get signed in free agency for a couple of years in a new team and, be a fine QB2, for the rest of his career for the next 4 or 5 years. So he's one of the most underpriced assets right now as well. If you're in a productive struggle, I highly recommend you get him. Even if you're a contender, get Jimmy Garoppolo as your second, third quarterback. I did a 0 QB where I went Jimmy Garoppolo as my first quarterback in a productive struggle. So we'll see how that goes. But I really do think that Jimmy Garoppolo should be valued similarly to like a Sam Darnold. But right now, he's going 5 rounds later. And I know Sam Darnold has a starting job for now on a team that's viewed as supposedly pretty good, even though they're pretty bad with a good coach or whatever. But I think if I were to make a bet, I would bet in 2 to 3 years, Jimmy Garoppolo has a higher odds of holding a starting job than Sam Darnold. So, look, I might be right, I might be wrong. Come back to me, roast me if I am wrong. But I'm pretty confident in that type of bet, especially at that type of cost. The downside is completely built in. You can do a productive struggle, get some of these guys. And I did one last year too, and I drafted Cam Newton. I drafted Teddy Bridgewater. I drafted Ryan Tannehill, guys who you wouldn't think you would want to go for in productive struggle. But the bet I made was when I drafted them, Cam in the double-digit rounds, Teddy Bridgewater in the double-digit rounds. I'm like, hey, I'm going to sell these guys in season to a contender for a first-round pick. or a couple second round picks or whatever. And that's more value than what I drafted in that, which is like the 14th, 13th rounds and a 14-teamer, which is more like, a mid-teen round. So that's the bet you're making. You're betting on value accrual or a sell opportunity in season. It doesn't just have to be youth. You don't just draft a bunch of guys and wait for them to develop, right? I'm drafting a bunch of guys, a bunch of assets that I think have a good value accrual window, a good balance, right? I'm going to have guys that have good value accrual over the long term, which is like the quarterbacks or like the young running backs or the wide receivers. But I'm going to have a couple guys where I think they have good short-term value accrual that I can flip in season, right? So you can get some of these guys and look to flip them in season. And people, like a lot of guys who struggle, like, no, I'm never drafting Cam Newton. I'm never drafting Jimmy Garoppolo. Those guys don't have a job. Well, you know what? You can't deal in absolutes. People really struggle, I find in Dynasty, they struggle to handle thinking about things in terms of a range of outcomes, a range of probabilities, right? They just think like, oh, they drafted Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo has no job. Those are the only two scenarios they can think of. They can't think of like, oh, like, well, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo can't beat out Trey Lance, which is what I expect. But, there's a chance that Trey Lance busts. Maybe it's a low chance. Maybe it's a high chance. I don't know. However you value Trey Lance should play into that equation. There's a chance that Trey Lance busts. There's a chance that Jimmy Garoppolo just fucking plays really, really well and plays better than he has before. And, San Francisco is like in the playoff hunt. They don't want to risk switching to a new quarterback. That's in the range of outcomes. There's a chance that Trey Lance starts right away as a stud, and they just trade Jimmy Garoppolo because they're not going to pay $24 million a year for him to be a backup, right? Either this year or next year. There's a chance that they both bust, right? There's a bunch of different outcomes that can happen, and people only think of the one. And that is what causes someone like a Jimmy Garoppolo to fall to the 12th, 13th, 14th rounds of a super flex startup, which should never happen because there's a chance he's a starting quarterback for 49ers, but I think there's an even higher chance that he's a starting quarterback over the next 3 to 4 years for another team, similar to like what Kirk Cousins did. Because Jimmy Garoppolo at this point in his career has done more than like a Ryan Tannehill or Kirk Cousins has. So it's not crazy to think that he can continue to improve. It's not crazy to think that another team will get him. He went to the Super Bowl, right? I mean, he lost the Super Bowl, but he still went to the Super Bowl. He played well enough along with his supporting cast to get there. And people want to shit him for that, but at the end of the day, that's he's a winning quarterback. So I think, you got to take advantage of stuff like that, even when you're a productive struggle, because you're going to get those short-term value spikes and you're going to be able to trade out, right? And then the last thing, like I said, you don't need to reach for quarterbacks this year. Just try and accumulate value. Just look at your team as a positionless team, right? Just try and accrue value and try and accrue value at the highest value positions, like, quarterback, tight end, running back, and then like wide receiver. And especially if you're going for wide receiver, like I said, accrue value the young wide receivers, but also do not be shy away from the veterans who are like still 27, 20 years old who you can sell in season for like trade down for like a younger, maybe an underperforming rookie that you really like, plus like future rookie assets, right? And then obviously in a product struggle, you want to try and get as many future picks as you want, right? And the key thing here is, and thing that I've been taking advantage of, for a couple of years now, is I look to acquire rookie picks 2 years out, because when you're in a startup draft and you're going to be a productive struggle, you're not going to be contending anyways for the 2-3 years, right? But because of the concept of time value of money, in this case, time value of production, the earlier you get a player, technically, the more valuable that is, which is why a rookie pick next year is worth more than a rookie pick 2 years out, because you get that player, you can use them on your team. But if you're in a rebuild, it's actually the opposite, because the rookie pick is the one that's guaranteed to accrue value. And if you're on a productive struggle, you want to have as much safe value accruing assets as you can. You don't want too many risky assets that can tank your value. So from that perspective, like, you probably don't even want to draft that rookie player first, because that rookie player might bust. So delaying that rookie draft pick into a future year is actually exactly what you want. And because of the price discrepancy, you can take advantage of that and get cheaper rookie picks 2 years out, right? And that's what I've been doing for 2 years. I think people have caught on a little bit, mainly because the general consensus is that 2022 is a little bit weaker than 2023 if you play with people that know what they're doing in terms of Devi and all that stuff. But if you're in your home leagues, and most people, like 99% of people, don't know what rookies are coming in 2023. Only the real sickos and degenerates like yourself and who are watching the video and me know that. So take full advantage of that, right? Take full advantage of that. Go into your home leagues, go into your work leagues, go into your more casual leagues, and get those future rookie picks. Obviously, don't trade as if the 2022 first and 2023 first are equal, because you don't have to. But in the back of your mind, those are the types of compromises you make. So like if someone's like, I don't want to trade with my 2022 first. Well, how about you give me your 2023 first and like a second round pick. Because to you, a 2022 first and a 2023 first are pretty much equal in value, right? They're pretty much equal in value. You can even make the argument 2023 might be stronger than 2022 because of the class, but then getting that second round pick on top is just money. And that's a move that I've been making a lot of in startups. I'll send out an offer I'll send out two options, right? My first option will be getting their 2022 first, and my second option will be getting their 2023 first and 2023 second. And that's like, to me, like to bridge the time value gap, a second round pick feels about right. And that's not a fleece. Like, I think that's a fair thing to do. But if you're in a productive struggle, you got to take advantage of that because you don't care about getting a rookie in next year versus this year because you're targeting like a rebuild 2 to 3 years out anyway. And like I said, if you're doing better to struggle, 2023 is a great year to target to flip that switch and become a contender because there's so many stud running backs, and those are the classes that you want to target. You don't want to target like shallow running back classes. You want to target the deep running back classes or like the deep quarterback classes, the ones that have a immediate impact on high value positions to help you turn your team around, right? So that's kind of how I think about it, right? So don't worry about target those rookie picks 2 years out. If your league lets you trade 3 years out, you could go for that. Personally, I don't like having 3 years out rookie picks because like I don't know if that league's gonna last. But if you're in like a home league with all your homies and it's like a 10-year league and it's gonna be around, then obviously do the same thing and go 3 years out. I don't know too many prospects yet from 2024. I'm still doing my Devy stuff there, and most of them are rookies anyways. Or not rookies, sorry, freshmen. So, we'll kind of see how they produce. But like I said, rookie picks always increase in value, so it's never a bad idea to grab them, all right? So that's all I want to cover today. Hope you guys enjoyed the first episode from the new crib, from the new satellite offices here in Sacramento, California. I'm going to be filming more and more episodes to come out of this office. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe, hit the little bell too, so you get a notification when these new Market Watch Monday videos go up, or the other videos that Noah and I are doing. Like I said before, Noah and I are back in the studio together. We're doing bi-weekly episodes of just, versus battles, breaking down players, the big facts, and then we're doing the narrative as well. So that's every 2 weeks coming at you on this channel, more short form videos. And then, if you guys want to become a true Dynasty degenerate, just really, really up your game on the strategy side and just dig in and just talk fantasy football, Dynasty football with other like-minded people, 300 other like-minded people every single day with them and with me, make sure you hop onto the Wolfpack Patreon, patreon.com/ourpack. We got about 300 plus strong in there right now, and it's going to keep growing. And it's a great community, man. People are building tools on top of my rankings. People are talking about players. We're talking about analysis. We're talking about strategy. We're talking about everything. We're talking about best ball right now because it's best ball season. So you're going to get all of your football fixes. I promise you, it's going to be the best money you spent in order to, in terms of like adding to your win column, right? In terms of taking down championships, I truly believe that is going to be the best money spent for you. All right. There's a lot of great tools, a lot of great people, a lot of good communities out there, but I didn't fucking build this to be modest, right? Like I truly believe that what I'm putting in and the things that we're teaching and the things that we're learning in the community is the best out there on the market. And so I hope to see you guys in there. For those of you guys that are already in there, thank you for your support as always. That's all I got for you this week. Until next time, peace out from Sacramento.